Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome you to this afternoon's or this for the next hour, the training session for 3CX on professional reporting. I just wanted to check with you if you can see the screen and can hear my voice. Okay, cool. Thank you very much. Now, this training session will be a little bit a special one, as more or less it is at the moment just a lookout or a capturing time of what is actually available. I will come back to that again then at the end of this training session, when we are at the end of everything, when we did run through it. It will not give you a very, very deep insight as of now. It is just a reflection on what is on 3.6 version 20 at the moment. What I show you now today is all subject to change. You see that on the bottom right, that red subject to change. You will see that on every slide of that presentation. As 3CX is reworking currently the whole reporting, that is something that is at the moment proposed to be released with update 5 of version 20. So they are changing everything in regards of reporting. I do not know to what extent that all will be changed. I know that there will be a lot based on AI. I don't know what is all included. The reporting what I go through with you at the moment is just more or less what we have on the system. It is from that perspective also again, just a capture of time or capture in time, because it will change in a couple of months, hopefully not too far away. Now, what I would like from you, based on that we are now having that webinar, if you could, in a way, at the moment, while we have that meeting or while we have that webinar, if you could add features that would be important for you, that you would like to see into the question section. Yeah. Again, what we are going to look at is just a reflection of what we have on the 3CX as of now, what is currently there. It's nothing special. To be honest, we have to say that. It is going to change. Yeah. I don't know to what extent, in what way it will change, but this is going to change. Okay. So we look at the 3.6 AI summary and sentiment, what we have in call log, extension statistics, ring groups, queue answer calls by waiting time. We look at the agent statistics, the 3CX queue statistics like abandoned queue calls, queue callbacks, queue failed callbacks, SLA statistics, SLA breaches, that kind of stuff. Again, it's all subject to change. Call log. We find that on the admin reports call log, we have the following options there. The range, which defines the range of days, weeks, months, year, or custom to which the report applies. We will see that line, we will see that very, very often over the next couple of slides. The from option is it defines, when we look at the call log, it defines the source of the call. So it can be it can be a user, a queue, a ring group, a number containing a certain amount of digits, or certain digits. The number starts with certain digits, or we match that exact number. Then the to field defines the destination of the call, can be to everyone, to a user, to a queue, to a ring group, to a number that contains certain digits, to a number that starts with certain digits, or to a number that matches exactly the number or the digits we enter, or it matches a billing code. The call type can be all. That includes only answered or only unanswered. So that includes answered or unanswered. Or it can be filtered by only answered or only unanswered. Then the filter is literally the filter that we define, where the call log is based on which requirements. And then I added that only here at the very beginning. We have at the top right, in the call logs, we have the opportunity to export the filtered call log, or of course, if we leave it unfiltered, then it exports the whole log without filter applied. And then we can also print out the whole or filtered call log. The call log is probably the most extensive report that is at the moment on the 3CX. We have the actual call that is read from the bottom to the top. We can see there the call, the timestamp when a call comes in. That is always really handy for troubleshooting. We have the timestamp, and then we literally see what happens with that call. We can see that it is inbound coming to a department. It is then answered by the department coming into the queue. We see that status, we see the ring talk time, and then the reason for what is actually happening. Yeah, so it was answered because it was handed over to the queue. And then it was in the queue, and then in the queue it was unanswered. And then we can see that then by the reason that it was replaced by queue overflow. And then in the second highest row, we can see that it is in the queue overflow. Still, it stayed unanswered. And then the reason why it was defined as unanswered was because it actually was replaced by the voicemail. So it was not answered in the queue, in the main queue. It was not answered in the overflow queue, and then it went to destination no answer from the overflow queue to the voicemail. And there it was answered, and we see it was talking for 3 seconds, so more or less the voicemail announcement. And in the end, the call was then just terminated by the remote participant who is the caller. Now we see below we have a list on what that everything means. We have the call time, again, very handy for troubleshooting. We have the caller ID there. We see the number of the calling party. That, of course, can also be an internal number. We see the destination that handles the call. Again, in the first, on the lowest row, we have there it comes inbound to a department, and then the next above we see it is in a queue. Above, then we see that it was handed over to the overflow queue because the main queue, or the first destination, did not respond, and then in the end it came into a voicemail. This voicemail, of course, can also be then another queue where it goes to, can be a ring group, can be can be literally everything, but again, that was just like the call flow. Here we have then the status. We see it was answered from the department towards the first queue. That was handed over, and then literally the call was timing out. in both queues, and then it was answered again by the voicemail. We have the ringing time, we have the talk time, the, the costs that show the actual cost of the call. Of course, since it is inbound, this generally is no cost that applies. Again, then the reason that is very important, where we can see then also in terms of troubleshooting what actually happened when that call was handed over, who terminated, who took over. And then when we would have a conversation, we would see the sentiment based on a scale from 0 to 100 or from 1 to 100. And then we also could have the transcription of the call. And then on the right side, we have the hamburger menu with further details that we look at a little bit further. Here we see again the whole call log. We see the call comes in. In this case, another call that comes in to the department. It's then answered again by the queue. Then it rings in the queue, and then it is replaced by an IP phone, and we can see that there is more or less 1 second between the bottom row and the top row. It's 1 second between when the call started ringing and then when the call actually was answering. It shows by ringing, it shows 2 seconds. It's more or less you can discuss now if it's 2 seconds or if it's 1 second, because based on what is on the call time and what is on the ringing and talking time. Talking, of course, we see here in the middle row, we see middle line, sorry, we see 2 seconds of talking, because we literally had the music on hold running in the queue, which is during the polling time. So it was there were in the middle row, the right line, sorry, we have 2 seconds of talking where the call is announcing inside the queue. These 2 seconds are in the end the ring time towards the phone that was in the queue. Now, if we go back to the other one again, we will see that there is no ring and no talking time. And with that, you can literally figure out in a way that there is no agent in the queue. Yeah, because it just runs through to the voicemail, destination no answer. Yeah, it hits from the department coming to the queue, then it hits nobody's in the queue, so it hits destination no answer, goes to the queue overflow, hits destination no answer, and then it's transferred to that destination no answer, which is the voicemail of extension 1000. So here you can also see that there is nobody logged into the queue, while in that example here we have someone logged in the queue, but the call flow is literally this one here. Yeah. Now the hamburger menu in the call log, we have when there is data available, that's in line with the with that screenshot. We see on the right side the hamburger menu, the top row, the middle row, and the bottom row. Middle row and bottom row, there is no active conversation going on. The call is in the queue, so therefore we don't have certain values there, which we have in the top one. Yeah. So in the top one is the actual call being answered. We have download, play, and then we also can have the call quality report if that is enabled. So we can, if call recording is enabled, we can download the call recording. We can also play the call recording, or we can show the call quality report. If transcription is enabled, we can have the summary and the transcription there as well. Now, the queue polling time and the time when the call came into the department and is handed over to the queue, we have no data available because there was no conversation going on. So from that perspective, we have nothing there to actually download or look into. We can create a schedule on all reports. It's more or less always the same. We go into the report, then at the very top, we choose any of the icons. It's always the same pop-up that comes with the same options. Then we can choose the range. We can choose the source, the destination, and then the call type. Again, the from would be either from a specific extension, or it would be from a number that starts with a specific digit or a couple of specific digits. Then 2 can be a specific destination. Again, I had that lined out in that list here. The 2, any extension, user queue, ring group number that contains digits, number that starts with digits, match a dedicated number or match a billing code. Yes, it is the 2 field. Then the call type can be all, so answered or unanswered, or you just can filter based on answered. Now, on the left side there, you see search. That would just create a overview for the call log, but would not save it anywhere. Or if we go on the right side, we can choose save schedule, then we can name it. Then we can say save to my reports only, no schedule. We can say monthly, first day of the month, weekly, on Monday, daily. So these are the predefined options that we can choose. Again, everything that you see here is meant to change, or most of it. Yeah, I don't know to what extent. Extension statistics, we have the range. We have no reason why I have the call type twice there. All only answered or unanswered. The range, again, is the same range like we had before, range of days, weeks, months, year, or custom to which the report applies. Then the department, which defines the department that must to be reported, checked on. We would define there a specific department, and then it would check the extensions from that department if we want a department. Yeah. We see here we have then the extensions. We have here now, I chose the department internal accounts. Again, the sentiment of the call. So was the call quiet? Was it tense? These kind of things that can be defined on the system. From that perspective, then people could actually look or listen into the call recording if there is if the calls are recorded. We have inbound, was it answered, unanswered? Outbound, was it answered, unanswered? The total answered, the total unanswered, and the total talking time that we have there. Again, you choose an icon, you choose the option you want, the range today, last 7 days, last 30 days, last month, that kind of stuff. The call type, is it ingoing? Is it, what did we have before under the call type? Inbound, is it answered, unanswered? Or is it everything. Then we define the department, and then we can either search for it or we have it saved, scheduled. Ring group statistics. Ring group includes also paging groups. There is only the range available. It defines the range of days, weeks, months, year, or custom to which the report applies. Again, we see here only the range filter is available. Ring groups and paging groups are in the same logs, showing a total of answered, received, and unanswered calls. Of course, again, you see here on the top right of that screenshot, there is also the print or CSV export function. Again, we can then either search for the statistics based on the day or on the last 7 days, the last 30 days, that kind of stuff. But what we have already, so the grouping there is the same what we had in version 15, 16, and 18. You choose, and then at the bottom you then either save it with a schedule or without a schedule. With the schedule, of course, you then get every day a if it's daily, you get every day a report. I have to say I checked with 3CX. There is at the moment, I don't know if that will actually also come, I have no idea, but as of now, there is no graphs available in the report. So if you are looking for graphs at the moment, that is not available. You remember in the version 18, version 16, we used to have graphs. On version 20 at the moment, there are no graphs. I am not across if any graphs will come. Queue answered calls by waiting time statistics, range queue service after. The range is clear. The queue, this defines the queue that we will have a report created. And then serviced after defines the time in seconds the calls should be answered. So if we have the rule that the calls should be answered with after 10 seconds, we would have to add that inside there. Then we get again a list. Only one queue can be filtered, displayed per report, so we can't have multiple queues. We also can't filter for departments there. The service time can be added as filter to define the maximum call wait time. Every call in the report was answered after max ring time. No abandoned calls in report. Then again, the same way on how to create the schedule. It's literally always the same. I just added that for every report, but it's literally always the same here. Yeah. Agents and queue statistics. We have the range again defines the range of days, weeks, months, years. A custom. The queue defines the queue that we have a report created. Dropped after defines the time in seconds the calls have been dropped prior. Again, we can only filter one queue. We cannot have multiple queues that we can filter again. The service time can be added as a filter to define the maximum ring time before a call is dropped. And then here we see there is no call drop, no dropped abandoned call in the report from that perspective. Again, the schedule is literally the same. It's just that you have it then when you get the PDF. Login history statistics, the agent login history, we have the range, in what range we want to have that report created, and the queue defines the queue that will have a report created. We then see per device. So I only used in my example one desk phone to have that more or less replicated, or one agent to say so. You would see then when the extension or the agent was logged in and was logged out, and the total of logged in per day. That can be multiple values within a day. You see here the 4th of the 11th as multiple logins, and then we also see the total talking time of the extension. Again, how to create a report, a schedule, generally always the same. To say so, if we would have multiple extensions in that queue, we see here it's the example one queue. If we have 4, 5, 6 agents in that queue, it would be all lined out based on the extension. So we would have one extension, and then it would be, of course, we would see the agent's name. When it's in a normal setup, it's not like this one here. We would have the agent's name, and then we would have his whole login, logout history from that period that we are looking at. And then further down, next would come another agent, and then another agent, and then another agent. And for them, it would be the same in there. Again, that would be then the schedule of that setup. And you can see we have, again, the range where we can define if it's 1 day, if it's 7 days, if it's the last 30 days, if it's yesterday, and then we have a single queue to choose. We cannot choose multiple queues in that report as well. Abandoned queue call statistics. Again, we have the range, we have the queue. Again, we only have one queue, and we have dropped before. This defines the time in seconds the call has been dropped prior. So if we say, okay, every call that is dropped prior to, let's say, 5 seconds, because you have a certain reaction time when a call comes in and all that stuff, that is not counted. Everything that is after 5 seconds is counted. So from that perspective, that's to exclude calls that where the customer hangs up too early, these kind of things. Only one queue can be filtered per report. No call statistics, showing call time and caller ID, showing agent in queue, logged in and logged out, caller waiting time, polling attempts, and the agent's state. As you can see at the top, we have a queue, a report that is 30 days long for the example Q1. We have only one agent inside there. Multiple times someone called at the earliest time, so the row that is at the bottom there, the 12:34 p.m. on the 4th of November, the agent was logged out. So there, in that case, there is no polling attempt. Then we go further up. We have 34 seconds waiting time with 2 polling attempts. So which means after 30 seconds, the polling time is actually 30 seconds on the system. There is 30 seconds, and then the call was sent back into the queue. So therefore, we have 2 polling attempts. I then made a different configuration where I then sent the call in the configuration after 30 seconds to the destination no answer, which would be the overflow queue. So in the top line there, we see 30 seconds waiting time, 1 polling attempt. The agent was logged in, but the call then was also sent to destination no answer. Of course, that's such a short time, and destination no answer. That was just to actually being able to show the different between or what happens with the overviews, to have what happens in the call flow as we saw before. That's the call log. When the call comes in, it's not answered, where it goes through. Not that I have to call myself more or less for 2 minutes, just to show you at the call flow or the call log when a call is not answered in the queue, where it goes further. Therefore, I made that pretty short, but also to show you what actually happens between a longer polling time or in queue time. So you see it happens 2 polling attempts, or what happens when we just when the call actually goes out to the destination no answer. Of course, if we have here a waiting time in the middle row of 60 seconds, and we send the call after 60 seconds to the destination no answer, we would have here waiting time instead of 34, we would have 60, and polling attempts would be 2 still, because the call is then sent forward. Yeah. The range on the lower one, we see we have 2 agents logged in there, or 1 agent logged in, 1 agent logged out. Still the same queue, but we have the range only as of that specific day. And then the agent is logged out, but it's still polling to him, which actually shouldn't be. I'm not sure why I have that inside there, but it shouldn't poll to that agent because he's logged out. So don't ask me what happened there, but he actually should be on 0 there. Again, we have the range on which days I want to have a report created, or over which range of days, and then which queue I want to include. Again, we can only choose 1 queue. We cannot choose multiple queues, and then the time in seconds on which dropped calls to ignore, to up to how many seconds. So again, maybe 5 seconds, comes down to what the customer has as a setting or as a guideline. Queue callback statistics, we just define there in ranges. So we define the range of days, weeks, months, all these kind of things, which we can set there. It shows all queues. You can see there, it lists up all queues, shows the amount of calls received, shows the amount of callbacks initiated, shows the amount of failed callbacks. So in that regard, I have not set up callbacks on that system at all, because I would call myself and I would probably be occupied in that very moment and there anyway. So callbacks, from that perspective, we would see here, if someone would have initiated the callback, gives us an indicator on also if I have, let's say, 5 callbacks made in any queue, and 5 of those 5 callbacks are failing, gives us an indicator that there might be something wrong with the outbound rule. But yeah, generally, we would get there an overview on the calls or the callbacks being failed. And then again, the same, we have the opportunity to do the scheduling or just on the fly report. SLA statistics, we have a range and calls dropped. Calls dropped defines again the time in seconds the call have been dropped prior. So from that perspective, we would exclude there the calls that are dropped in a too short time to react. Then we see here we have 100% call breaching SLA time. We see the amount of total calls received. Calls breaching the SLA time, of course, comes down to how the SLA time is set on that system. And then we would see then there, of course, a different percentage of the SLA time breach if we would actually answer the calls and not just try to show people what actually is shown there in that report. Yeah. So if I call in and I hang up my own number, so from where I call in after 15 seconds, of course the call is dropped, but the call was also not answered. Therefore, I have breached the SLA time, especially if I have a very, very low SLA time set. Again, we choose the range of the times we are going to look at. You see there, I said it by the last 30 days. Then we set the time in seconds on after how many seconds actually a call should be answered. Everything prior that, everything dropped before that is not inside the report. And then we do the whole schedule of the report. If I want to schedule and save it, or if I only want to save it, that kind of stuff. SLA breach statistics, we define there again the range of days. It defines the queue that will have a report created, and it defines the time in seconds the calls have been dropped prior again. We then see it shows the chosen queue. So compared to before, we saw all the queues and we just saw an overview. Yeah, it's a general overview. Each queue has one row. And here we have per queue detailed. Yeah, so we see the caller ID, we see the queue, and we see the waiting time, and all of them were more or less breached. Yeah. You see, even the 00 was breached because it was not answered. That was the one where nobody was logged in the queue. So the very bottom one where the extension was not logged into the queue. Even that shows up in the SLA breaches. Again, that's how we do the schedule. I know it's repetitive, but it's just how it is. Performance overview statistics defines the range of days again, all that stuff, calls dropped, and then again defines the time in seconds the calls have been dropped prior. Here we see the queues. Again, we see here all the queues. So if we have 50 queues, we would see them all in a row. Of course, we can open and close them. And if we open them, we would see all the extensions that are inside that queue. Of course, not all the extensions are on the PBX, but all the extensions inside that queue. And then we would see how many calls did that queue receive, how many have been serviced, and then we see, for example, here the T57 serviced 3, the T54 serviced none, and then how many were unanswered, and then how much talk time did we have, and then what was the average talk time. Yeah, so calculated out of the 3 serviced with talk time 33 seconds is an average talk time of 11 seconds. So from that perspective, we then there see who is for a long time on the phone and who is less long on the phone. Again, we have the same way. And what we cannot filter here is the average talk time, yeah, or the overall talk time. So we cannot filter any, or I mean, of course, when we have the Excel sheet, so the CSV, when we export the CSV, we can filter for that. We can um, line it up for that, but we cannot say uh, in the schedule here or in the filter, show me every agent that has an average talk time of above 2 minutes. Yeah, that's not possible here. So you see, the the reporting at the moment is very basic. Yeah, there's not much that we can actually really filter in there to see the information based on these things. Detailed queue statistics, again, we have the range. We want to have the queue or the report created of, and then we have the calls dropped time to exclude calls that are dropped too early. Yeah. Now we see here, it shows all the queues again. So if we have 30 queues, it would show 30 rows where we have the queues inside. It shows the total calls per each queue. It shows the total abandoned calls of each queue. It shows the answered calls of each queue, the answered in percent, so the percent of answered calls compared to the calls that came in. And then we see the serviced callbacks, we see the total talking time, and we see the mean talking time. Again, when we look at the filter, we cannot say, okay, filter all queues that have an average talk time of 2 minutes minimum. Yeah. So there's nothing that where I can say in the filter, show me that. Yeah. Something where you can really where you could actually see the performance, where you say, okay, show me only everything that is above 2 minutes or talk time, that kind of stuff. Yeah. Or everything that is above 30 seconds answer time, yes, or call wait time, doesn't say. It just gives you the opportunity to exclude the calls that are dropped before a certain time, because let's say that's too fast. So that the reaction time is um, too short, yeah, to actually react on there. Yeah, so it's again, it's very basic at the moment. Um, Detailed queue statistics, we have again the range and the calls that are dropped. And then we have the agents in the team, the received calls, serviced calls, unanswered calls, total talking, average talking. If we look at that before now, we see that we have um, the amount of percentage of answered and the serviced callbacks. And in one and in the other one, we have the agents that are in the team. Yeah. Then the reporting again is, or the schedule is literally the same as with everything. Now, with that saying, we are more or less here at the end. So again, we are going in update 5, we are going to see more reporting. Again, I am not aware of how much this actually will change um, in regards of what can be done, like filtering out if there is something like only average talk time above 2 minutes, average answer time above 30 seconds, or that kind of stuff, if there can be something else, if there will be graphs included again or not. That is outside of my knowledge.